In an official capacity for 8 nonprofits since 2006 and serving on the board of 3 of them, Robert is most passionate about giving Houstonians in need a hand up and helping guide people nationally to the decision of registering as organ donors. Having witnessed the life-saving benefits firsthand as his father's life was saved by one via double lung transplant that we just saw in 2012. Robert lives with his wife Amy and five children in Spring in Houston. Okay, you got enough energy? Come on up here. Robert Boudwin, Houston Rockets.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that introduction. I'm glad I wrote it. There's 2 breaks in that video so that I get 3 rounds of applause. That's a little performer trick. I like to start things off a little loose with a joke. I have gotten paid to be an entertainer and a comedian of sorts for the last 21 years. So this guy is habitually late to work. He just can't get to work on time. His boss has had it up to here with it, and he said, "I'm sorry, this is it. If you're late one more time, you're fired. It just sets a bad example for the staff, and I can't have it anymore." Now, this guy's up to his eyeballs in debt, okay? He's got credit card debt that's maxed out. He's got 2 kids in college. He's got 2 mortgages on his house. Point is he can't lose this job. Next morning, he gets up super early, gets ready for work, gets his tie on, gets it straight, gets in the car. He's feeling great. Hits a huge traffic jam. He must live in Houston. Hits a huge traffic jam on the way to work. He's like, I'm all right. I left early. I should be fine. This is a really bad traffic jam. He's starting to sweat it. Finally gets through it. He's got 5 minutes to spare. Pulls into the parking lot at work. Every spot's taken. Circles it one more time. He's got 2 minutes left. In desperation, he looks up at the heavens and he says, "Dear God, I know I haven't been the most religious person. I know that I haven't attended worship every weekend. I know that I could be better to my neighbor. I know I could say my prayers every night. And I know I haven't tithed enough to the church. However, if you help me out this one time, I promise you I'll do all of those things and more." Right as he finishes the prayer, lo and behold, a spot opens up, 2 spots in front of him. Guy looks up at the heavens and says, "Never mind, I got one." This is kind of a unique job. It's an odd job, I know. There's only about 100 professional mascots in the country doing this full time as their primary career and source of income. So I get a lot of questions about it. So I just want to get some odds and ends out of the way that you might be wondering about. I'm going to have to read because I have my list of top 10 here. Top 10 questions I get when meeting people socially that make my head want to explode. So what's your real job? This is it. Is that full-time? Yes, it is. What do you do in the off-season? I don't have an off-season. I work year-round. Can you show up here for free? I answered that question to Chad back there, Fort Bend police officer, yes. Number 5, can I have some tickets? Yeah, you can go buy them at the Toyota Center. How long are you going to do this? I don't know, until they fire me, I guess, or I find something else to do where I entertain and inspire. What are you going to do when you're done? I don't know. How much money do you make? I like to answer this one and just tell people, level them in the eye and look at them and say, a lot. Do you hang out with this star player, whoever our star player is? The answer is that is no. Top 10 questions I get when meeting people socially that do not make my head want to explode. These come from more of a respectful curiosity versus the unintentional and unwitting accident. Is it hot inside there? Do I have to answer that? Is it hard not to talk? No. Do you sweat a lot? Yes, I lose about 10 pounds a game. I wish it stayed off, obviously. It's all water weight, but a gallon of water, if you don't know, weighs 8 pounds. I lose anywhere between 5 and 10 pounds a game. Change out t-shirts every single time I take a break, but yeah, I sweat a lot. Do you have a fan or ice pack in there? No, they just weigh you down, and you're not nimble enough as a performer at the professional level. How do you see? I see out of Clutch's mouth, not his eyes, so the next time you interact with Clutch, don't look at his eyes. That always makes me laugh. How do you pee? I'm going to skip that one. Catch me over a few drinks and I'll tell you how I usually answer that. The answer is, honestly, I have never had to pee when I'm in costume. You sweat so much, it's just never something that you ever have to do while performing. Are you a girl or boy in there? You guys have the privilege of knowing that one firsthand. How does someone get into that line of work? I had this question a minute ago. I was actually a college mascot. I started way back in the suburbs of Philadelphia in high school. Did it on a lark. The cheerleaders asked me to do it because I guess I seemed like the kid that didn't get in trouble but was kind of the class clown at the same time, so they asked me to do it. I got to the University of Delaware as a freshman. Met some cheerleaders again. There was a current thread there in my career leading up to this. And they asked me to try out. I auditioned. I did it at the University of Delaware while I went to school there for marketing and management with a minor in philosophy. And then I also did it in the summers for a minor league baseball team, the Wilmington Blue Rocks. And I taught mascot camps for Universal Cheerleaders Association. You might be familiar with their competitions on ESPN, but I taught all their camps in California, Nevada, New Mexico, and Arizona. And I got the audition with the Rockets in 1995 and have been there ever since. So any of you that are keeping track, we won back-to-back championships. 3 months later, they hired me, and we haven't won since. So I guess I'm the jinx. I try not to talk about that around the Rockets office too much. I might be out of a job. By the way, we have a pivotal game tonight. So yeah, appreciate that. If we win, we're headed to the playoffs. If we lose and Utah loses, then we're still headed to the playoffs. So we're hoping for a first-round playoff draw. We'll be playing the incumbent champs, the Golden State Warriors, which I'm not too happy about that. But, last question. Have you ever thrown up in costume? Okay, I don't get that one that much. I just wanted to tell you. Yes, one time I did. I was in a playoff rally, took a break. It was May, really hot, and I drank a 2-liter bottle of Gatorade, just too much in one shot, where my mouth kept saying, "You're hot, drink, drink, drink." Your stomach said no. Put the costume back on for my second hour of the appearance, and I'll leave the rest to your imagination there. So I know a lot of you probably attend seminars on teamwork and leadership and how to work best together and create synergies between departments so that you're not siloed. But I also would wager to bet that there's a lot of innovators and drivers in this room. Otherwise, I don't think you'd be here. So one of the things that I'd like to talk to you about in my career, which is kind of, I've always thought akin to Robert Frost's poem, "The Road Not Taken." I made some different choices in my life, but one of the things that a quote that really resonates with me is, "The reasonable man adapts himself to the world. The unreasonable one adapts the world to himself. Therefore, all progress depends upon the unreasonable man." When you're thinking about that, you might also think, boy, he sounds like a real joy to work with. But I think the point is an important one to make. It was said by George Bernard Shaw. He was an Irish playwright from the 19th century. I would encourage all of you, a lot of times we feel the things that we're trying to do that are new and innovate and push towards make us unpopular, make us sometimes perceived as hard to work with or hard to manage. And I would just say to you that whenever you're doing something new, and the only way that I've kept this job for 21 years is continually innovating, pushing myself and those around me to do stuff that's interesting. Otherwise, I'm just a guy in a teddy bear costume that's doing cute, vanilla, boring, unremarkable stuff. And that's not going to keep me in business. That might keep you in business at Chuck E. Cheese or waving on the side of I-45 with a sign that says, discount sofas. But it's not going to keep you in business at a professional level in the NBA, where we frankly look at our games as not just games, we look at them as shows. And I think we do this better than any other sport out there. When you're in your seat, until when you leave is about 2.5 hours. The ball's only in play for 48 minutes. We tend to look at that as a 2.5 hour show, not a 48-minute long basketball game. It's our job to make sure that you're entertained from the second you sit down until the second you leave. And that's what helps justify our ticket price and pay for all these high-dollar athletes that hopefully win us championships. The true litmus test in my business is if you stand outside the Toyota Center after a game's over and you're looking at the faces and the conversation that people are having and the look on people's faces. If you can't tell whether the Rockets won or lost by that, then people in my department did their job. You had a great experience, win or lose. And ultimately, in the sports entertainment business, that's what builds your brand. You're not going to win every year. There's going to be ups and downs, obviously. It's a cyclical business. It's our job to make sure that we build the brand consistently, we reinvest in the community, we advertise, we build our brand, we create our relationships, we have community programs, win or lose, so that our fan base and the city of Houston, the 6.5 million people in the greater Houston area, continue to support us, whether we're going to go to the championships or not. A little bit about being a mascot that you could probably draw some parallels to and relate to your own life. I use the acronym SMILES. I coach quite a bit, mascots from all levels, starting at high school, college, minor league, other professionals, corporate mascots. I've consulted and done quite a few mascots around town here and helped create the characters from the ground up, but also done performer searches and auditions and hired. I was asked to hire the last mascot at the Astros, Orbit, which is doing pretty well. And you know, the acronym I use is SMILES. The first S stands for stuffed animal. I think that this is pretty obvious at a very basic level. Kids think that these are real life, larger than life stuffed animals. And you need to be huggable and lovable. And I would encourage you all to think about what that means in your jobs. And yes, we want to drive. And yes, I tend to be a very intense person. But I also need to balance that and cut that with being lovable and huggable. Over the years, I've been encouraged by my bosses to spend more time in the office talking about the weather. Just to give you an idea, you know, of how I approach my professional life. I go into work and it's usually boom, 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 and I need to invest more in just building relationships, not about the work product itself, but about what we, you know, all know about each other. So they encourage me to walk the halls, and I think a lot of people in leadership positions have this challenge as well. They're so intensely focused on the goals and the metrics that they have to achieve that they often forget to just spend some time in the office talking to people. The M in SMILES stands for marketing and sales. At a very basic level, I think a mascot is a living, breathing, walking billboard and logo for your brand or your team. When we have billboards all over town, they're great. They advertise our product and our brand and our players. With a mascot is a walking, living, breathing billboard that can actually bend down and give a kid a hug, make a lasting connection. We like to think about it in terms of creating lifelong fans. The I in SMILES stands for inspire. This is my role as cheerleader. Usually this is done in the fourth quarter when the game's on the line. I like to think of my job as the first 3 quarters. I'm an entertainer. My job is to make you laugh, provide entertainment throughout the game, during play. Not everybody is a basketball purist and such an intense fan that they don't want to miss a second of the action. Most people want that quick high five, that hug, that funny interaction, that picture, that selfie. Unfortunately, the camera is the downfall of the modern mascot because you don't really get to work the crowd anymore. Everybody just comes out with their cameras and wants a photo. But in the fourth quarter, my job is to inspire, create home court advantage. There is a definite statistic that says it's easier to win at home than it is on the road. Part of that is because of jet lag and travel burdens, but a big part of it is because 18,000 people cheer every time you do something good, and they don't when the other team does. So it's my job to kind of not synthesize that excitement, but to capitalize on what the team's doing, get us all on the same page, so the Toyota Center and our fan base is the loudest in the league. The L in SMILES stands for laughter. This is my favorite part of the job. That's why I got into the business. Most of it is just improvisational, impromptu physical comedy. It's about learning how to communicate with body language without the benefit of facial expression, obviously. So Not like a mime, because at least they have their facial expressions, but it's about communicating not just on a small level, but also on a large level to 18,000 people, and tell stories with skits and video shorts. That's actually a small part of the job. Most of the job is headed to the game. I have a game tonight. I'll head there with no real set plan for most of the game. And I'll hit the crowd, try to draw people into the show. It's not a Broadway show where you all out there sitting there quietly watching the action on stage. The audience is the stage. And it's my goal to try to draw you in to the show as one of the players. The E in SMILES stands for education. Set aside the games and making people laugh. This has been my area of focus that I'm most passionate about. We've done at this point now almost 1,800 school shows in the last 21 years around Houston, predominantly at elementary schools. There's 800 elementary schools within a 75-mile radius at Toyota Center. We've been to over 600 of them, so about 75% of them. And we do what we call edutainment. With that age group, you're talking 500 to 1,000 kids in a gym or a cafeteria, and you can't just go out there and entertain them because then it's just an expensive recess, and you can't just educate them because you'll lose their attention and put them to sleep and lose control. So we try to flux in and out of talking to them about the message of their education and why it's important now so that they can achieve their dreams later. The last S in SMILES stands for stunts. For most of you in your life, to kind of shock yourself and rejuvenate yourself, this comes in the form of vacations or different media stunts that you might do with your job for marketing purposes. For me, it's both. Sometimes it's on the ball and balancing. Sometimes it's running around town for 13.1 miles in a teddy bear costume, which is a good segue to kind of really my ask here. Organ donation is not something that is that comfortable to talk about. Nobody likes to think about their own demise or their loved one's demise. It's just a very tough subject. My father was suffering from idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. It's a scarring of the lungs with no known cause and no known treatment. And things were complicated, even worse. He had been diagnosed with that and suffering for about 4 years. And in early 2012, it was complicated with a case of pneumonia. I rushed him to the hospital, to the emergency room on February 2nd, 2012, because he couldn't even get through a sentence at that point. And I was out there having lunch with him, and I said, let me have your doctor's number. He's a little bit of an old school hardhead, and said, no, I'm fine. And got his doctor's number. His oxygen levels were in the 60s at that time, and they said, get him to the ER immediately. Doctor told me, listen, if he doesn't get a lung transplant, he's going to pass within the next 12 weeks. A week later, he was officially put on the transplant list in the position number 2 because he was overall healthy and was in dire need of it. And those are the two things that they look at. How healthy are you? Because they don't want to give a transplant to somebody for one ailment when they pass of another ailment shortly thereafter. And then how dire is your situation? 1 week after that, on February 15th, 2012, he got his double lung transplant that saved his life. His donor, his name was Ian Heidemann, who was a 22-year-old boy in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that passed tragically on Valentine's Day night. He was unfortunately planking on the top of a car that his brother was driving, and they hit a piece of ice, and he flew off, and he was instantly declared brain dead. But Ian had designated himself as an organ donor, and he saved 5 lives. There's a man in the Midwest that actually has his hand. He's a farmer that lost his hand in a combine accident, and they did the second hand transplant in the country with Ian's hand, and now this man's playing golf and working as a full-time farmer again. My dad's doing great. He's a little over 4 years post-transplant. He babysits my twin 7-year-olds, and hopefully he's going to change a lot of these diapers that I have coming up with my twins that are due in August. When my dad was being cared for in the hospital, I saw a life gift table in the atrium at Methodist, and I just went up and I said, what's this about? What's your organization? I know it has something to do with transplantation. Here's what I do for a living. I think I can help you. I can public speak. I can fundraise. I can do whatever you'd like me to do. They explained to me what they did, that they're an organ procurement organization, and they asked if I was an organ donor. I said, sure I am. I remember in the suburbs of Philadelphia at 16, when I got my license, I checked the box in the back. And they said, okay, can we see your license? Pulled out my license. In fact, I was not an organ donor. I did not have the heart on my license. I didn't really quite understand why I wasn't. And in that moment, I felt shame. Here my dad was at the hospital getting a life-saving transplant, his second chance at life, and I myself was not an organ donor. In that moment, I realized that this was an awareness issue, that there's probably a lot of people in my position that felt the same way. When I got involved with Life Gift, there was less than 3 million people on the Donate Life Texas registry. There are 26 million Texans. At this point, we have reached 8 million on the registry, so we've increased it 5 million in the last 3 years. I'm pretty proud of that fact. Feel free to applaud. We got a lot of work to do. We've got about 45% of Texans on the registry. There are other states out there like Colorado and Oregon that have 85% on the registry. So really, my ask of you is to spend the 1 minute today when you leave this at some point. Jump on your smartphone, jump on your laptop, jump on your work computer, go to donatelifetexas.org and register being an organ donor. It just ensures that your wishes are taken care of if the unthinkable happens. Most of these situations happen under tragic circumstances. They're not illnesses. They're honestly gunshot wounds and car accidents where people pass tragically and families are just left in the wake of such a horrible, horrible moment that they're not really equipped in most cases to make the right decision for their loved one that's passed or for the 5 to 8 lives that they could save in the wake of this tragedy. So I'd encourage you to do that. And it's the one ask I think you'll receive that won't cost you any money, and you can give the gift of life. Do you have any questions? Yes, sir.
Is signing the back of the card legit? I was going to ask you that.
It is not. There's no way to sign the back of your license. You can do it at the DPS. We had some problems with the DPS where if you checked, yeah, I want to be an organ donor, and then you also check the last box that says, no, I don't want you to share my information with any other organizations, and most people read that as, I don't want junk mail. And it nullified that fact. So that kind of makes your mind explode, I know, but that was one of the problems we've since rectified, and we've built much stronger relationships with DPS, and they actually promote people to do this. There's signage, and the people have been trained on the ins and the outs of it. The best way is to go on the website, and that's the official registry where everybody's listed. You gotta make sure whether it's on your license or not.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
When you do these schools and these events, are you doing it in character, part of the time, out of character? How do you communicate and talk to those kids?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've been one of the fortunate professional mascots in the country to have a full-time assistant with me for over 15 years. He does all the speaking part. And we've kind of worked out shtick between each other. He plays a little bit of the person that delivers the message. He plays the disciplinarian. He plays the heel. You know, at times I'm making fun of him, but he delivers all the speaking parts of the show. It's an hour-long show. And I kind of act out parts and, you know, make fun of him to entertain the kids at certain parts, and he scolds me. So it's a team effort there. Good question. One more. Wait, it sounds like we have one more question.
If you have the little heart in the lower right-hand corner of your license that says donor over it, does that mean that
You're on the registry.
organization has you on the registry?
Yes, sir. If you have the heart on your license, it means it's also on the registry.
Real quick, Ally, we got to get it.
When you say cannot donate, I would talk to your doctor and I would look into it specifically. I've gotten that question about cancer patients that have beat cancer, and you can still be a donor if you have certain kinds of cancer that you've beaten. I'm not sure about gluten. You cannot? Okay.
I'm sure that, if you don't mind, we
Spread the message.
gotta get on to our next, but are you gonna be able to stick around?
Yes, I'll be around. And by the way, in the lobby, I've left storybooks. So any of you that have little ones at home, please grab a copy of Clutch's storybook on the way out. And there are the green wristbands that are Donate Life wristbands. Please help yourself to one of those. Thanks for having me out. Go Rockets.
Once again, Check your license. If you don't have that heart in the lower right-hand corner, that's where it is. You know, it lets you know if you